I'm very good at writing animal themed songs, I guess you could say, animal themed pop songs, I guess. But that also can either be subtly or more overtly like witchy as well. But yeah, I think my connection to animals is really where it all like at the very, very core and center of me, there's just something that's so closely tied to that.
That was the voice of Zan, one of our dear, dear, dear friends, and a fellow apprentice through our priestess program.
Yeah, one of the things I love about Zan is the way he embodies magic in a way that is totally unique to anything I've ever experienced. And it's that he approaches his magic through this ancestral lens that is so foreign to me that whenever I witness him doing it, it just really changes the way that I think that magic can look.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and one of the things I love is some of the the imagery that's kind of conjured by the way he does his practice. So I hope our listeners will enjoy it.
I do too. It's a real deep dive into some really magical facets that are totally out of my realm of experience.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
races,
and backgrounds.
With a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true, our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves. So before we get started in our dive into the world of ancestral witchcraft in this really magical way, I wanted to take a moment and see how you're doing. What's going on with you?
I am doing really well. I had a really great weekend. I was out with a group of people hiking in the Sierra foothills in California, and had a great time. It was gorgeous, beautiful, really nice weather. None of the fires were near us or anything like that. The only problem was, just pretty much near when I was leaving, I fell off the mountain. And I mean, it's just, I'm not even going to describe it, but it was one of those things where there was a lot of these were lodgepole pines, so those long pine needles, and there was a nice thick cushion of them, and they were just slippery, and my legs and knees and ankles went places they shouldn't have. But as you know, I'm a proponent of essential oil, so it was exacerbated by the fact that this happened, and then I got on a plane and I took the red eye from San Francisco, and then got another plane in Chicago. So spent I don't know 8 hours on a plane, and then taught, then ran to school and taught. But I'm much better now, and it was certainly worth it. What about with you?
So I wanted to share that over the weekend, I had a group of friends, my really close. They formed my acropod. Group of friends gathered because they wanted to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Witchy Wit.
Yay!
which is wonderful. And I was unprepared for the amount of celebrating and honoring they were going to do. So I have this. It's hard for me to receive. I'm a teacher, I'm really good at giving and not getting anything back.
which is a good thing.
Which is the way that teaching goes. But I was just really unprepared for the amount of adoration that they were going to shower me with and love. And it was really wonderful. And just whenever I was brought into the area where we celebrated with this, it was about 6 of us, my really good friend, one of my closest friends, had made little brownies in the shape of cauldrons that she filled with this white pudding that she dyed green, and then put a little pretzel stick in it to look like a little stirring spoon. It was just so cute. And then her partner, another dear friend of mine, arranged the vegetable tray to look like a tree, because I love trees. And then the chips were arranged in a moon shape. And I mean, it was just so many thoughtful things. And then she made like little conversation cards. So she had listened to every single episode and come up with questions.
Oh my gosh!
To like discussion starters about that episode that were I would say discussion questions that were inspired by topics we've discussed on our podcast.
That is so cool.
We sat around the fire and like listened and like talked and listened to each other share about. I mean, some of them are funny and some of them are like pretty deep.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is that she also bought me a microphone to share with you, which we're using right now. I mean, look at this thing. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. It's so wonderful. I just tapped it all over. Did some
I'll have to edit that.
ASMR.
I know. It's a beautiful double capsule. I'm trying to remember what the manual said. Double capsule, something or other.
Something.
That we're not quite sure if we're using it properly yet.
We hope it sounds okay. But it was just, this microphone is so wonderful. But it's just a real opportunity for me. And I kept telling her, I'm okay. Like, I'm sorry that this is just really hard for me to accept all this love, but I'm really like trying to like stay present in this moment and not deflect it. And they were all very generous.
It sounds like they were. I mean, it's so generous, like just in terms of this wonderful, wonderful tool, but also generous in terms of being thoughtful, really thinking through the things that they thought would please you.
Yes, and generous with their holding space for me as I worked through.
As you process.
As I processed through my own baggage around being taken care of. So it was really wonderful. And we hope that this microphone helps everyone enjoy as we talk. Hopefully we sound crystal clear.
Yes, indeed.
So my name is Zanshawa-Sufi Witch, or Zan or Zan. I identify as a witch and also Muslim, specifically Sufi Muslim.
How would you describe your practice?
So I have a very blended practice between those two traditions or those two titles. So from the witch side of things, I would say that, well, I mean, I think just in general, I practice like in the ways like all of my ancestors have, more ancient ancestors have, I should say. So through my like ethnic backgrounds, like practicing like the ways they would, the holidays they would, worshiping the gods that they would. And then through my Circassian Kafkazi side, that's where I'm also Muslim, and very much so in like a Sufi sense. Like, and if you're unfamiliar with that, what that word means, it's kind of like a mystical, magical, like practice of Islam. So one way that I kind of combined those is that so every day through the 5 Salah prayers throughout the day, I incorporate like the 3 main deities that I work with, Allah being one of them. And so my prayers get sent to all 3 of them during that, as well as with my ancestors and helper spirits. And then one of the other main things I do regularly is once or twice a month, usually it's once a month on the full moon, I feed my ancestor altar. So like ancestor worship is like very important to me. So I put fresh water on there. And then also on the altar are my helper spirits, which have mainly come to me from my Circassian side, but there are more there. And those are certain spirits that have come to work with me, or some of them are from lineage, or like from specific ancestors, and they live in the spirit house there. And so I feed them once a month with water and with Reiki. Yeah, so those are like the very like usual things that I'm like always doing.
And may I just jump in? I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll turn it over to you, Leilani. So with when you say so you kind of feed them with Reiki. So it sounds like are you a practitioner? Are you a devotee, or is that a part of your spirituality as well?
Yeah, I am level 3 Reiki, or master Reiki. I don't really use that term, but yeah, I've done the 3 main like Reiki attunements. Mm-hmm. And so that is like that is actually something I really do use to tune into them. Like individually, I'll hold them, like giving them the Reiki and kind of check in with them and be like, hey, like, how are you doing? Do you have anything to show me or anything you need right now?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And before I move on to this question, so should I address you as witch and Muslim? Like, does that feel encompassing, or do you like one or the other, or is both okay?
Yeah, both is totally fine. I've definitely told people I'm a Sufi witch before.
I love that though. I love that. I picture you like doing the Sufi dance where you're doing the twirling with a broomstick in your hand.
Yeah, oh I love that so much. I really want to make that happen now.
Yeah.
But one of my initiators in reclaiming is like a initiated Sufi practitioner, and so she's in the tradition, the Mevlevi order that does the spinning, and so that's something I really want to get into.
So beautiful to see. Yeah, thank you.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your core expressions of your Sufi witchiness?
What do you mean exactly by core expressions?
So the question for me is like, what's at the center of your practice? For me, it's energy and it's movement, and it's the elements. Like, what is it for you?
For me, that would probably at its really main core is my animal connection or connection to animals. I mean, I would definitely call myself an animal witch. And that's like my what's the word? Yeah, just my natural affinity. Like a further like expression of that is like through like my music. A lot of it is very I'm very good at writing animal themed songs, I guess you could say, animal themed pop songs, I guess. But that also can either be subtly or more overtly like witchy as well. But yeah, I think my connection to animals is really where it all like at the very, very core and center of me, there's just something that's so closely tied to that. To that.
Would you say that well, first of all, I just want to speak to your music. I just think your music is so express. I mean, and I haven't heard anything recently, but the last few things that I've heard, I just think that they're so expressive of you. Like to me, no one else could have written that. I mean, I think if I'd heard a piece being sung by someone else, I might still be able to kind of see you in it if I don't actually chalk that up to being one of your pieces. So I really do appreciate how music is a core part of what I see when I see you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's like music and animals, like those are like the two things.
Like, what else do you need?
I know, and then when I get to combine them together, it's like the best thing ever.
Would you be willing to share some about how the animals how that seeps into your practice?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is that most of my helper spirits are animals, or animal spirits that have come to me. Yeah, I think something I've learned with, or something through them, is that it's like brought my connection to animals in a different way. Because now, I mean, not that I'm like taking care of them as like nothing like a pet. It's not, I don't want to draw that kind of comparison, but it's something, it's a relationship that I have with them that through my respect for them, I feed them, I tend to them, I listen to them, I work with them. And so it's kind of like, yes, I have this connection with animals, but now like I literally have this spirit of an animal that came to me and is living on my altar. And so it's very different to just say you're connected to animals now. Now I literally like have these beings with me. Very much so deep into that connection and that practice.
So when and or how did you know that you were a witch?
I was excited for this question because I have a really, really funny and like corny or like stereotypical story. So really, it really all began with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And I feel so like silly like admitting it, but it's true. Because I was watching it and I was like 20, 19, 20, yeah, ish. And, Willow. And I was like, oh, wow, she's amazing. And so like I was like, what is Wicca? What is paganism? And I was researching it online, and it was kind of like one of those like moments of like, oh, like I think this is what I am. Like just that, yeah, so many things about it of respect of the earth and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's honestly the first thing. And then shortly after that, because I lived in the Bay Area, and shortly after that found Reclaiming, kind of like a greater pagan collective for people who may be listening and not know what that is, that kind of started in San Francisco. Shortly found them, and after I went to their first public ritual, which was the winter solstice. So that's where they all did the naked plunge into the ocean. And I did not know that was going to happen, but I was like, you know what, this is it. I was like, yes, this feels so right. And I love Reclaiming, is very much so a home for me. But yeah, that was kind of where all the ball got started rolling.
But you say it's corny or whatever, but you know what? Certain things tap into the zeitgeist, tap into where we're, a group of us are going or people are going, and whether or not it's hokey or commercial or whatever, if it springs, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
I definitely felt the call. I felt that with Willow too. I remember looking at her and being like, what is this? Yes. This feels so true to me.
I love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's true. Yeah.
It really does make me think of how many, like, especially like in pop culture today, like how many more like witchy things there are. And so how many like more people are actually seeing more of this and seeing it even like more like not only represented, but like more correctly. Mm-hmm. Represented, not that Buffy wasn't incorrect or something like that, but just like so many more people seeing this, and like I'm like, oh, how many more people is this like reaching now, or like having the same experience?
Mm-hmm. And the diversity of it too. It's not all the exact same type of stuff, right? So maybe if you can't swing with Willow, you can kind of jam with the Charmed Girls or the new Charmed Girls, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, exactly.
I also want to point out this like wonderful, what I see as this wonderful like metaphor for your entrance into your spiritual practice with this group, where you like jumped off the deep end, like they jumped off the deep end into the water and you were just like, okay.
Yep. I didn't plunge with them.
Okay.
I didn't do it that time. I was like, well, maybe not this time, maybe next time though. I've since have, of course.
But you recognize that the possibility of that being your tribe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Okay.
How do you handle negotiations between your Sufi witchy self and your mundane life?
I think I've been pretty lucky in my quote unquote mundane life and whatnot. Like I lived with my parents for a long time, and they were very open about that it wasn't like an issue about me being like witchy or pagan or something like that. Yeah, I even feel very fortunate, like in my Muslim side of things, like when it was like Ramadan, like I was doing, I was working and I was able to talk with my, and this doesn't really have to deal with much of the Sufi, like witchy side of it, but, I was able to talk to my employers and be like, hey, so like, this is what Ramadan is. And so like, maybe there might be some days where I'm like, I used to work with dogs at a doggy daycare. I was like, maybe there's some days I don't want to be outside running around with the dogs. Maybe I'll just sit inside for a little while and do office stuff. But yeah, I also right now live with a friend, and her son is my godson, and she's very witchy as well. So there's nothing like I'm, hiding. I'm not really hiding like anything like that in my daily life. The only thing that I would say is that from my Circassian side, like if I were to visit like Adygea or Circassia. Like Adygea is like kind of like endonym. It's like what we actually indigenously call it. Circassia is like an exonym, what like others have called it. That I would need to not be open about that, because there have been people who have been killed for being very openly and like publicly or like advertising like doing like practicing like indigenous Circassian like rituals or tradition. And it's like it's very interesting because I see in like the Muslim community, in the Circassian Muslim community, like we still do a lot of our like ancestral practices, so it is kind of blended. But once it gets to a certain like level of like, no, this is our like like, you know, very traditional ways, like there have been people who have been killed from that. So that's something that I, you know, even talking like here, I have a, you know, like a little trepidation in my head being like, oh, like, I mean, I don't hide, like I'm very like open on social media about like saying like I'm Sufi and a witch, like yeah, so that's just something in my mind that I would have to have negotiations and hide slash censor some in the real world.
Just be more cautious about your expression of it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you so
Do
much.
you have plans of ever going there?
I don't like have anything set in order right now, but I definitely want to. Because I didn't know about this ancestry until I was 22, and so like I didn't know like Circassians even like existed. Like I had no idea what they were. Like my dad didn't even know. And that's for lots of complicated reasons. But yeah, I it's very, very important to me to get there sometime and visit my family's like villages and stuff like that.
And feel free to not answer this question. and we'll edit it out. But when you talk about doing your ancestor work, is it a particular lineage or or even a particular side of your family as you think about that?
Yeah, I for the past 6-ish years, I've been very focused on the Circassian side. But previous to that, I did a lot of connecting to my Slavic side, which is both from my mom and dad's side. But yeah, since like discovering it, like since I was 22, like I've done like I've been very focused on that ever since. Like, of course, like I honor all of my ancestors and backgrounds. And it's not like I'm not working with them as well, but I'm very, very focused on like the Circassian side of things.
Thank you.
Could you describe what it was like for you whenever you did discover this? Like what was it like for you to feel or to know that there was this calling of your practice?
I very specifically remember the day I found out, and it felt like a whole branch on the family tree came like flooding in that I previously had no knowledge about. And that's because like, and I'll like more explicitly state this now, that was because like we experienced a genocide from Russia from 1763 to 1864 was so 101 years this like main war was happening. And after that, they annexed us, the land, and then they exiled us. And so that's why most of us are now found like further into like the Middle East and in Jordan and Syria and and mainly Turkey. But there are communities like all over the world. Yeah, so I didn't know about that when I first found out about it, but there's a distant family member who had made a website about one of our ancestors who was a general in a division of the Russian army. Like once we had been integrated into Russian society, I guess you could say. That's where like I found out. I was like, oh wait, he's this Circassian, like Kabardian. Like Kabardian is like the specific tribe we are. And then once I started doing research, then I found out about like the genocide and stuff like that. And so that then that was like a very different very different, like, wait, what?
Mhm.
So like there's been a lot of integration and work I've had in processing I've had to deal with around that. Um, yeah, I've been, I don't know if I've strayed from your question, but I've been very fortunate in the information that's been available because of the military positions some of my ancestors have had. And being able to trace that down, because that's not the case for a lot of Adigas. A lot of Circassians are not able to find any information because it's just all gone, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so that's why there's just been so much to learn, relearn, reclaim, sort through, figure out. Um, and it's been very beautiful too. I like I'm a lot more, like, specifically in 2020, funny enough, like I'm a lot more connected to like the community, and I have like a lot more friends like around, like from the diaspora, like around the world and stuff like that. And I feel a lot more connected. I've still never met another Circassian in person. So that's still like a it's like a goal on my, like, it's like a goal I have. I'm like, who, like, I have not, but it's weird too. Like
My people, where are my
uh,
people?
I'm like, I haven't met like one of us before. And it's such the weirdest thing. I have met some Georgians, which was really cool. If you're familiar with the geography of the Caucasus,
Yeah.
Georgia's right. Circassia is basically like right above Georgia.
Mhm.
Um, which was really cool to meet some other like Kavkazi, like mountaineer people. But yeah, it's I need to like meet meet my people.
Yeah, yeah. One day,
Yeah,
post
it's
it.
gonna happen. And I'll get, one day I'll get to the Heku, the homeland.
There you go. Um, so the next question I'm going to ask, I'm going to kind of pause this. First of all, the it's two parts. I mean, it actually is one question, but to get there, I have to kind of do it in two parts. So one is for you to just think a little bit about what you think you're here for, what's your mission, what's your purpose, and then how would you describe the way in which your practice, your spirituality may intersect with that, feeds into that or not, or if it intersects with it at all.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely say that I feel like my purpose in life, I guess, yeah, you would say, is music. I mean, there's not a day that I'm not writing or thinking about melodies and stuff like that in my head. And I think as I went further down my path of spirituality, um, that very much so informed my songwriting. And I was learning how to fold some of that in a sense of like I'm writing like a song that like I envision to be more pop or electronic, let's say, but it's still like there's still a lot about it that's very ensouled. Like and not to say that pop music that is just to be like fun and poppy like is bad or something like that, because I love all kinds of music. Um but yeah, I think I know that my purpose is music, and I know that my spirituality and definitely my witchiness has helped evolve that in certain ways. To It's like something that you almost like just can't like quite touch. It's like this, like, I don't want to say touch spirit, like as something like, well, spirit, well, let's just say spirit, as like we're talking about the elements, right? To spirit, to where you can get to a point like through music where you can connect with spirit or an element or something like that. I mean, your guys' music episode, like that's a perfect example. That's like, yeah, that's totally my purpose in the intersectionality of that.
Thank you. That's brilliant. I love that. And I wonder, if in a certain way, just who you are and just like the variety. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other Sufi witches who have animal affinities out there, but you're the only who make music. So it just seems to me that you can be so expressive of your experience, but also be expressive of all of those things that kind of are your facets too,
Yeah.
and in a beautiful way. Thank you.
Yeah, it makes me think of, so I actually just recently wrote a song that is a two-parter. There's like one version of the song that's like more like animally, and then I wrote a second version that's like Circassian like related lyrics. And so it was kind of like, it was super cool to like write these at the same time. And I was like, I'm gonna make an Adiga version of this. And yeah, it was very fun.
And if whenever it's done, or even if it's not done, maybe we could play a little bit of it. Like if you send us a clip, we can play some of it during
Probably I probably wouldn't, because it's not copyrighted. If it was copyrighted, if I do copyright it out,
Gotcha.
But I would love to send it to both of you too, though.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, it's just like a little like.
Oh, totally. I get it. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm remembering a time, like, I feel like this has happened a number of times where we've been listening to music and you've said something like, this would be a great song to call in water, or this would be a great song for center, or, like you showed me that song Ritual.
The Ellie Goulding one?
Yes.
Oh my God. Ellie Goulding is my girl. She is like my biggest musical inspiration. And so like
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, when she released that album and then the deluxe version, which had Ritual, I was like, are you serious? Like I was like losing my shit.
Wow. I'm gonna write that down, because I don't know that piece at all. Ritual.
Oh yeah, you gotta look that up.
Okay,
it is waff, Witchy.
Yeah, it is. Is there anything else that you would like to share about yourself or your practice that you think would be interesting to have us know?
Is that like, I feel like a big like vocation like in my life now is to show that it's okay to have a blended practice. Like with like paganism and like Islam as well. I've been seeing more of like blended practices like that come up. And I know before in the past too, I'll say it, I was more closed-minded about being like, no, like you can't call yourself like Christian and a witch, like, and I was totally wrong. It makes me think of one of the ancestors or mighty dead of the reclaiming tradition, Lizanne Basham, who I loved very, very much. And she was also musical and we played a lot of music together. But she was, this amazing elder and witch in our community. And she was also a Christian minister. And like, that was the first example of like seeing that. And she passed away like before I became Muslim. And I just wish she was around so I could ask her so many questions or, guidance from her. But yeah, that it's okay to be kind of paradoxical, I guess you could say. I mean, because like honestly, like what I do in my practice to so many Muslims would be so haram. Like it would be so like, no, you don't do that.
But it works for you.
But it works for me.
Yeah, and it's your way of bringing more magic to the world, baby.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a sense of tolerance that begins to happen with that, to be like, it's okay to have like differences. It's okay to, seemingly come from different sides and put those together and whatnot. And yeah, hopefully I know more things like that can happen and just make the world a better place.
It's a reflection of the creativity of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that should be praised and lauded a lot more than it is, but no one's asking me. So we're super, super, super charged about this and super charged for having you and your tiger. What's going on there on the?
I think it's tiger.
Tiger.
Tiger. Body rolls.
Yeah. So actually, the name Zanshawa means striped lad or like striped boy.
No.
I came up with it myself when I was trying to like put together my own like Adiga name. And so when I learned the word for striped, which is Zansha, I was like, wait, if I put the awa at the end, I was like, Zanshawa, I was like, technically that would mean the striped lad. And I was like, oh my God, can I do that? I was like, I'm doing it. But that's what, and then the kitsu, I paired it with like a like traditional or like indigenous like Circassian name, which kitsu means, according to John Colarusso, who is like a leading linguist in Caucasus languages, means young goat being. And
Mhm.
then my last name, Hagendokwa, means son of the dried out dog. So yeah, my name would be striped lad, young goat being, son of the dried out dog, or withered wolf, as I've heard it put before too.
Okay. Okay.
I love all of like the animal
Yeah.
correlations all in that name.
And now that I know what that stands, what the words translate to, it's your name is so you.
I know, I love it so much.
That's right.
I was super nervous too, like, and so like I'm doing an online Circassian class. I've been almost doing it for like it was since like July.
Mhm.
But like when I decided to like change the name, I was like, oh, I'm really nervous. But the teacher was just like, all right, Zanshawa, here, read this. I'm like, all right.
It's been really powerful to watch you come into these different knowings and practices and really embody who you are.
So in addition to reclaiming a Circassian Adiga name, one of the most powerful things I have ever experienced was with the both of you when we were doing a priestess training in Portland. And I decided on the anniversary of the Circassian genocide, to when we recognize it, when like the last like battle was like fought. It was a full moon, I didn't even know that it happened to be a full moon. It was on this date. We were in Portland, and I was like, I'm gonna get a tattoo of our flag. And um, yeah, and y'all were there with some other friends, and so witchy shit went down, and y'all were singing over me as this tattoo was happening, and I remember the tattoo artist being like, yeah, because she's a witch, and she was like, yeah, from the gloves down, she was like, it was like it wasn't my hands, and like each star like on the emblem felt like one of the different tribes, because the flag is 3 crossed arrows with 12 stars above it, which symbolizing the 12 tribes.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah,
I just remember it being really powerful. I mean, we had candles going.
I remember you
I
guys
mean, we were
blended the ink.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I mean, it was just that was to me like a really powerfully magical moment. And I wasn't even getting inked. I was just there in support. So
The like I remember the lights being dim and the candles going and the sound of the tattoo gun and the like the pain and the blood and the dedication and our chanting and it all just being so magical.
I'm like getting chills with you like saying that. Yeah, no, I am just so like just like thankful to y'all like being there and for like creating that space, because like you guys really just I don't know, I were there to support and like to hold that container, and it was just really really awesome.
thank
um
you.
I,
No, thank you for letting us be a part of that. That was amazing.
I don't know if you
Oh
all since
no! Oh
I've
my
since
gosh, that's
second
gorgeous. Yeah.
patient tattoo. I have the comma dagger on my arm. Um, and I don't know if you can see
Oh,
it,
the
but
oh my gosh, yes.
there's writing right here that's in Arabic.
Uh-huh.
It says
Uh-huh.
Hajret, which the how do I describe this? So my family, the on the eastern side of Circassia, the Kabardians, um, they went, so basically Russia attacked on the eastern side first, so like our land first, and so a lot of the Kabardians migrated to the west of Circassia to continue fighting, including my family. And they call themselves the Hajret Kabardians, which the word Hajret comes from the hijras from that Muhammad made during like his, it's kind of hard to explain, but like going like from Mecca
Mhm.
and Medina and stuff like that. But yeah, so I got the Hajret there for like for my like my family like story. And then I also have my family Tamga, or family seal right there. It kind of looks like the two circles connected by a line. That's my family's seal. Yeah.
Amazing.
Super
That's
fun
amazing.
when I was getting this too. It was the first time I was doing Ramadan, and the person tattooing this, I forget how it came up in conversation, but he had said that he was Russian. And oh my God, immediately my ancestors were like, what? Like, I was like, wait, no, it's okay. Like, this person, like, he sounds like he's like really like supportive of this, and like, you know, I already explained to it, and he was really down for it. And I was like, you know what, like, this could be like a piece of like intergenerational healing. I was like, here's this Russian person giving me this like gift, the Circassian tattoo, and like, that's super cool and super beautiful.
I have to say that if I ever choose to get a tattoo, I don't think I could ever get one done like in a mundane way. Like, I'll like roll into the tattoo studio and be like, okay, cool. So where can I set up the candles? And my friends are coming to chant. So...
Right?
That's cool, right? That's right. Cool. We pass the circle first, and okay.
Yeah, the drummer's over there.
And the place I got this done is a very witchy shop, like owned by a amazing like witch woman. So like all of that was like totally cool to like do there too. So the first time I actually met my Circassian ancestors was at a spiritual retreat in the woods that I know you both have spoken about before, and Leilani was there at that one. And we were working with Baba Yaga from Russian/Slavic tradition. And, you know, previously up to then, I thought for my dad's side, I was just Russian. Come to find out something totally different, and all these other mixes in there. And, you know, way down the line, I find out I am a little bit Russian too. And that was also like, oh, whoa, like now I have to figure out how to integrate and navigate that. But yeah, that was the first time I literally met them. And by the like second or third day of camp, I couldn't walk. Like, I didn't injure myself, but my right knee hurt so bad and I could like barely walk. And I was like, what is going on? And like someone was like, maybe like I kind of know with some of the stuff you're working with, they're like, maybe it's like when Uncle Bob is nearby, this certain part of your body like has a reaction, or like maybe that's the part they're touching. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it's this. And whenever we were doing anything like very ancestor focused, like my knee, like I couldn't even stand. I would have to like kneel down.
Wow.
And then the craziest thing was that at the very last day of camp, everything is devoked from the circle that surrounds camp. Except the circle. The circle is standing, but everything is devoked. And literally right after that happened, I could walk just fine. And that blew my mind. I was like, no way. I was like, that's what it was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was such a crazy, like visceral, like tangible experience of them like having contact with me for the first time. It was really wild.
I can imagine. Wow. And so you knew you had the Russian heritage, and then that was when you figured out the Circassian, or how did that work?
Yeah, well, so the narrative from my dad's side of the family is that he was 100% Russian. After what first initially spurred this, when I started doing my own research, was that I did a DNA test through ancestry.com, and that came back with 0% Russian. And I was like, what?
Mom?
So it was showing like a chunk of ancestry in the Caucasus. And so once I started doing research on the names my dad knew, I was able to find my great-great-grandfather, who was the general in the Savage Division of the Russian army during World War I. And that's when I was able to find out, like, you know, information. You know, I learned what Circassians were, and I think it's just so crazy that like through like the colonization that we experienced, and like the just generations and generations of like cultural deterioration, and like why it was more beneficial to say you were Russian than something like Circassian, or even like it turns out my dad also has like a Jewish like side as well. Like I just think of all those little parts that it was like easier just to say you were something else, and like how all of those were lost. And like literally my dad thought he was 100% Russian and I thought I was half Russian, and like then there was all this other stuff that was like, oh, just kidding. So then I had like a really big like aversion being like, no, I'm not fucking Russian, like I'm a Diga, like, and like all of, very much like I don't know what the word is, but just very much like, no, like I'm not going to call myself Russian anymore.
Like you radicalized it.
Yeah. It was like, with what they like did to us, I was like, no, I'm not going to let that narrative continue in like my story or like my family's history. And then further down the line, like maybe this was only like about 2-ish years ago, I discovered that my great grandfather, Islam Hagandokwa, that was his name, Islam. He actually married a Russian woman. And so I was like, oh, I was like, wait, so I am a little Russian too. And like at first, like I didn't really acknowledge it, honestly. I was like, I never said this, but pretty much in the back of my head, I was like, I'm just gonna ignore that.
That overly complicates things.
Right. I was like, no. But no, I the more ancestor work I did and the more just research I found out, I was like, wow, I can't do that. Like I need to find the parts of my ancestry that I can honor. And just because it's Russian doesn't mean it's something bad. And what I really, really love about this is that when they married, he converted to Christianity and he took the name Nicholas. And that's where the name entered my family. And so it's like, wow, it was like, because you guys may not know this, the listeners, my birth name is Nicholas. And so it's like, wow, it was like my namesake is from what I would hope to envision to be their like love despite their differences, like coming together. And I was like, wow, okay, I need to stop ignoring this.
That's amazing.
That seems so much to me of who you are, is like despite the differences, bringing things together in this like harmonious way.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that. That is really interesting to like, even in my like family story, like that kind of happened.
And I so appreciate the fact that you're really, I mean, when you talk about doing ancestor, working with your ancestors, I mean, this is a way of honoring and keeping this alive. And so like these little struggles and compromises and negotiations and changes and conversions that you kind of embody that whether or not you acknowledge it, right? Because there you are, but you make a conscious effort to try to honor all of those things, and even the parts that may not necessarily appeal to you initially. And so I honor your doing that, and that's amazing.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really grateful that y'all wanted to ask questions like about this, because it feels I don't know, it feels really cool to be able to like discuss this, like, and especially like in a witchy setting. I think part of like I don't know if like a vocation is the right word, but like I really want to bring Circassian paganism like to the forefront. Like the world barely knows about us, but like, and then like even less so about like our spirituality and like stuff like that. So like I kind of like want to be able to bring that part of myself like forward and like show like witchy community like, oh, like my culture's here too, and like we have our own like gods, and like oh yeah, like this is my moon goddess, like stuff like that.
Thank you. Yay, thank you so much.
So just thank you guys so much. It feels great to I love talking about it, obviously, but like it just feels it makes me think that like people are actually like interested or would find interest, and it's not just something that like, oh, like whatever. Like
no, definitely. Yay.
I'm so excited, and it is so interesting. And and I'm imagining people listening. My hope is that when people listen, they find inspiration and permission to follow into their histories, and to have this permission to sit in the paradox and no, that cannot be okay. I guess it is, and then find the beauty in it, and find the paradox and the magic and all of it. And I see you embody that so much.
Yeah. I feel like ancestry research is obviously so important for me, but I feel like it's so important for like understanding like who we are and seeing the things like even like specifically in our family stories, like finding those things in our family stories to some things that need to be healed, some things that need to be integrated, some things that need to be, actually looked at, and just how that like all creates like us today. And how we can then move forward in the world and help with other healing and stuff like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I learned how to do this, so thank you.
Yeah, we need all the healing I think we can get right now. So
oh, yes, indeed.
So I will say whoopso, which is thank you in Adigabza.
Say that again.
Whoopso.
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 Yeah.
Whoa, whoopso.
What a fun word.
Whoopso.
Yes, our language is very, very interesting and fun and difficult, and there's still sounds I can't make correctly.
And are there still? I mean, is it? Sorry, is it a living language? I mean, are there people still speaking it?
Yeah, it's considered a threatened language. There's a really big generational gap of where it kind of stopped being taught, or even when it was tried to be taught, it was stopped. Like in Turkey, like Circassian schools were like shut down and stuff like that. There's definitely been a big resurgence, and like even what like I mentioned him before, John Colarusso, the like scholar who he's not Circassian, but like I don't know how he found out about us. I've been able to meet him before. He's so amazing. But he said this before, and I agree with him. He was like, the internet saved Circassians, like basically is what he said. He was like, the way that he was like, when I learned about you all, I didn't think you all would be around by this year. But he's like, but the connectivity that we've been able to make through the internet, like with the different diasporic, like, or through the different communities throughout the diaspora and like stuff like that, and being able to share information, and especially like language classes, he was like, there's such a resurgence. And so that's why I'm so happy to be like in my language class, and it's very important for me to try to learn this language. It's very difficult, but it's really fun. And part of the funnest thing about it is that like I feel funny saying that. I love learning the things like I can use in like a sassy kind of way, I guess you could say, or just like colloquially, like just like in conversation, just be like, oh, like, hey, Sina Bjegwa, like my friend, like, or like, hey, Pshasha, like, hey, girl, like.
Amy Wall's like, what he said?
I love doing that. And so like I'll always like say things to like the kids here, and they're like, and it's funny, like some like my godson will be like, we jeshfua, and I'm like, yeah, good night. All right, good night. Like,
oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yay. Well, I'm it's nice to hear that, because I see in a couple of other areas too, where it's the young people who are kind of reminding the older people, these things are important, and refreshing that for them too, reclaiming it for them too. So well done.
Yeah, it's fun. One of my really good friends, like when we're like, oh, I wonder how we say this, she's in the class as well. And her mom speaks Adigabza. And so she'll like ask her mom, and her mom like won't remember. And then like a couple days later, she'll be like, oh, it's this, like it'll come to her or something like that.
So you're actually helping her, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
First of all, I fucking love your podcast. It is so much fun
Yeah.
that I'm just like, oh my God, when I'm in my room or in, the garage where my like bedroom is here. But when I'm just like sitting there, I'm like doing my notes or doing whatever. And like, I have y'all on and y'all are like talking. And like, I feel like you guys are like right there. And I'm just like, it makes me so happy just to like hear your voices, to like laugh with you guys. And it's the best thing ever. But also just, I love the podcast in general. I think it's amazing. This was so much fun. And
Thank you. For us too. And just for me, just to be able to sit and talk with you again. I mean, after so many years, so that was, that's delightful. And to get this information. So yay.
Yay.
So the poetry that I'm going to read today is a collection of 3 quatrains that I'm actually putting together that are by Jalaluddin Rumi, the famous Sufi mystic, writer, and poet. This comes from the book The Quatrains of Rumi. It is compiled and translated by Ibrahim Gamard and Rawan Farhadi. And this book, the translations are true to the original texts, which I think is important to mention, as most, if not all, publications of Rumi poetry in the West, or at least by Western authors, are not. But the 3 that I chose, I wanted to focus on the theme of the universal human experience of the soul, and that while backgrounds may be different, the essence of the soul is the same, and that we are all connected to the divine and are deserved of seeking out and following our spiritual paths and discovering, experiencing, and deepening our connection and relationships to our higher selves and higher powers. And to denote the end of one quatrain and the beginning of another, I'm going to be using the sound of a singing bowl. This human form that has been put together is a picture that has been hung on the stable wall of grief. Sometimes it is a demon, sometimes it is an angel, and sometimes a wild beast. What is this magic talisman that has been put together? If you are learned and scholarly, become foolish with love. And if you are the moon in the sky, become like the dust on the path. Become one with good and bad, old and young. Be a chess pawn and a vizier, and then become a king. If I had only known the value of my own perfection, I would have freed the hem of my robe from the dust of this earth. I would have run freely and lightly upon the sky, and I would have raised my head above the highest heaven.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!